What is up, party people? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Jamila. This is Jamila Be Reading, and I do be reading. So today we're doing my October wrap up. I already talked a lot about the books that I read for this month because I was doing a short 4-part series called A Scaredy Cat Takes on Horror, where I, a scaredy cat, someone who doesn't usually engage with the horror genre, decided to take it on. And I read some books, I watched some movies, and I watched a TV show, all within the horror genre. So if you want to check that out, I'll go ahead and link it down below. I'll have a little pop-up card somewhere for you to click on. So yeah, so let's just jump into it. I will go ahead and briefly just mention all of the books that I read for the series and give my star rating, but because I already talked pretty deeply about all of them, I'm not going to get into it here, just for the sake of making this video a little bit shorter and easier for me to edit. So the first book that I read this month was The Mist by Stephen King, and I gave that 3 stars. Next, I read The Ballad of Black Tom by Victor Lavelle, and I gave that 5 stars. Then I read I Am Legend by Richard Matheson, and I gave that 2 stars. I also read The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman, and I gave that 4 stars. So for the manga aspect of this series, I read 3 different manga. The first one was Gyo by Junji Ito, and I gave that 3 stars. Next up, I read the first volume of Tokyo Ghoul by Sui Ishida, and I give that 4 stars. And lastly, I read PTSD Radio by Masaki Nakayama, and I gave that 4 stars as well. So let's go ahead and jump into the books that I just read for funsies, I suppose. Not that I didn't read the other books for fun either, but not a part of the series. So The Dragon Republic. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying. I don't even have to say anything for you to know what I'm saying, okay? I read The Dragon Republic, okay? 5 stars. Doi, okay? It was just as good as The Poppy War. It definitely felt different tonally, I will say, just because in The Poppy War, half of the story is like, oh, in the academy, the military academy, Ren is still learning how to do all of this stuff. But this is just war from the get-go. It's following the aftermath of the stuff that happened at the end of the Poppy War. I won't do any spoilers, but it is just as dark, if not darker. It's grim. There is a betrayal at the end of this that I should have known was coming, but it still took me by surprise and I was shook. So I, obviously stared at the wall for a while, contemplating my life after finishing this, wondering how I could get my hands on an Ark of the Burning God, which I could not figure out, unfortunately. So I'm here waiting, waiting for it to come in at my library. I was the first person to put it on hold, so as soon as it comes in, it's gonna be mine, and I cannot wait to see how this series concludes. But it's so good, and you should read the series if you haven't already. Next up, I read Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. This is Celeste Ng's debut novel. She also wrote Little Fires Everywhere, which is her sophomore album. Her sophomore book, okay? And she has a TV show now because of Little Fires Everywhere. She's truly thriving, and I love to see it. Also, I posted a cute little pic of me with this book. I'll insert it here. And I posted it on Twitter, and she, said I looked cute. So, there's that. But anyways, Everything I Never Told You is a family drama. We all know Celeste Ng is the queen of writing complex family dramas that are just so good, you know what I'm saying? This follows the events of this family, the Lee family. Once their daughter passes away, they're trying to figure out what happened, but a lot of it is going into the past and coming back into the present. This is something that seems to be typical of her writing style, because I noticed this is the way she kind of wrote Little Fires Everywhere. They're trying to figure out basically what happened to Lydia. We're looking back at their family, how the mother and father came together, the dynamic of biracial family, especially in the 70s. I think this takes place in the 70s, so things were obviously a lot different than it is now, but it's very good. If you like literary novels, if you like complex family dynamics, if you like sadness, you'll like this book. I ended up giving this 4 stars. It's kind of hovering between 4 and 4.5 stars. It kind of just depends on the day, on the mood, but I thought it was really good. Highly recommend this book and Little Fires Everywhere if you haven't read it already. And yeah. And the last book that I read for this month was Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. And as you can probably tell, I'm hype about this book, okay? I am so hype about this book. My God, this was phenomenal, you know? You know what I'm saying? 5 stars immediately. I knew it probably a third of the way through. I was like deep in my chest, in my gut. I was like, this is gonna be a 5 stars, but let me hold out, because sometimes I get tricked in the end and something disappoints me, but it did not disappoint me. This was excellent. Absolutely great. It follows our main character, Bree Matthews. She is 16 years old. Her mother has recently passed away, and she's now starting at the early college program at UNC Chapel Hill in, is this North Carolina? One of the Carolinas, you know, down south. She ends up getting entangled in sorts in this secret society that's kind of based on Arthurian legend. She witnesses some sort of weird demonic attack, and she gets entangled. There was an entanglement, as Jada Pinkett Smith would say. There was an entanglement. So she ends up recruiting Nick, who is kind of an estranged ex-member of this secret society, to help her infiltrate. She suspects that there is something weird happening over there that might connect to her mother's death. So she's trying to figure this all out. It is really great. There is also a lot of historical things. Historical things. It explores ancestry. It explores ancestral magic. It explores racial dynamics. It's all great. It's really, truly great. I don't know what else to say, but you should read this book. It's not, oh, if you're into, no, you should read this book, because, wow, to be quite honest, this year has not been great for me and young adult books. I just think that I'm starting to outgrow them a bit. I don't want to say that I'm like never gonna read young adult, but I can definitely see, you know, why it's young adult, because I am no longer a young adult. I am, in fact, adult. So it's hard for me to relate sometimes to some of the characters and the stuff that they're going through. So whatever, it's fine. But this is just so good. This is one of, if not the best young adult book that I read this year. It's just like a really good book regardless of the demographic, and you should read it. I don't know what else to say. I'm just gonna lament about how amazing this book is. I so desperately want to just go buy it and get my own copy because it's from the library. Wow. So I did quickly want to talk about Catherine House, because I am like a third of the way through this. I wasn't able to finish it this month, but I will be finishing it in the next few days, hopefully. This is a pretty contentious book, apparently. It's sitting at like a 3.1 stars on Goodreads, which, I mean, 3 stars is not bad, but it's like pretty bad for Goodreads. So this is a book that people seem to either really love or really hate. And now, having read a little bit of this book, I can understand why. It is very apathetic in tone. It's very dreamlike, but I happen to like that. So I'm intrigued so far. But again, I think I'm only like 80 pages into this book. But this follows Inez, who gets into this prestigious university type of institution called Catherine House. It's really hard to get into, but if you get in, you get all your tuition and everything paid for. It's 3 years, but the condition is that you cannot leave Catherine House. You cannot have any connections to the outside world. You can't talk to your family or friends. You cannot go on the internet. None of that. You are basically just in the house. You're here to focus on your studies and to move past your past life, I suppose. And the promise is that once you graduate, you will have power. You will become a successful actor. You will become a successful writer. You will become successful in science, technology, become a judge or something like that. So this is obviously a really good opportunity for those who get in, but there's something amiss in this house as far as I can tell. It does seem very cult-like. Inez is kind of just like, as far as I've gotten, you know, nothing has really happened yet, but there's a lot of strange protocols. There is a lot of dangerous and hidden agendas. And Inez is kind of trying to figure it out. But again, because she's our protagonist, she, for reasons that are not necessarily clear to me yet, is very apathetic towards life. And so she kind of just moves through this world in a very dreamlike state. She doesn't necessarily feel anything deeply. And so, yeah, it's strange, but I'm into it so far. And I will update y'all on this book in my November wrap-up. Wow, can't believe it's almost November, but I'll talk about this a little bit later. So as far as movies, TV shows, etc. that I've been watching, I'll go ahead again and quickly mention the stuff that I watched for the A Scaredy Cat Takes on Horror series. So I watched Train to Busan, which I gave 5 stars. I watched Midsommar, which I gave like 2.5 stars. And I watched Paranormal Activity, which I'd probably give like 2 stars. I also watched The Haunting of Hill House. I don't really have a rating for that one, but it was really good and I really enjoyed it. Some of the other things that I watched this past month were Vampires vs. the Bronx, which is a movie, a Netflix original that follows 3 kids, preteens, teenagers, I'm not quite sure what their ages are, but they are trying to fight these vampires that are coming in and trying to gentrify the Bronx. And I thought it was really fun. The kid Mero from Desus and Mero, aka the Bodega Boys, was the bodega man in the movie, which I thought was really funny and interesting. I feel like this movie has been getting a little bit of hate, and I don't know, some of the comments I saw in reviews were like, this is reverse racism, but anyway, shut up. I thought it was cute. I thought it was fun and entertaining. By no means is it like the best movie I've ever watched in my life, but I would definitely watch it again. It was fun. I liked it. As far as shows go, I've been kind of watching The Great British Bake Off. I am like season 5, maybe. It's right when the new hosts come in and the new judge, Prue, comes in. And I used to watch this show with my old roommates, but then we all moved out of that place and we haven't been watching it together. I was kind of afraid to jump back into it just because I love the old hosts so much, but I've been really enjoying it so far. I think I'm like halfway through the season. I've just been kind of watching it when I needed something chill in the background to watch. But yeah, I'll probably continue watching that into November. I also ended up catching up and finishing the first season of God of High School, which is based on a Korean manhwa that's on Webtoons, I believe. And I don't know if there's going to be more seasons. I'm assuming there is. I feel like it was really popular. But it's basically one giant tournament arc. And I really liked the fighting. I love the action. And I really liked the trio. I don't know, the last like few episodes got real reckless. I don't really know what was happening. Things were rushed so much, and it kind of left me feeling unsatisfied. So I'm hoping there's going to be a second season, but I think in the meantime I might check out the webtoons manhwa, because, and I might start from the beginning, because I just feel like a lot of things are cut out because I don't know, there's just parts of the story that's just not making sense to me in a way that feels like it was explained, but I'm just missing something. So I might go ahead and check that out. I have a couple of anime that I'm just kind of watching weekly. Well, I haven't watched it in the last week, but shows that are coming out weekly and I am trying to keep up with. The first is Jujutsu Kaisen. Y'all know I already read the first volume and said I'm excited for the anime, and I think it's going to translate better as an anime, and I feel like I was correct so far. I'm really, really enjoying the anime so far. Oh my gosh, the opening song is great, and the ending song? Gotta get up, gotta get up. It's groovy. It's hella groovy, and I'm into it. I'm also watching Noblesse, which is another anime based on a Korean manhwa that's on webtoons. There are these beings, these special beings called nobles, and the master being of all of them called the Noblesse, who's supposed to protect them or something like that. I'm not quite sure on the lore, but I've been watching that, and it's funny because I watched the first episode, which is technically the second episode. Apparently back in 2016, they did like a 30-minute OVA that was the introduction to the story, like basically a first episode, if you will, and I had no idea, and I was mad confused. And then I realized that I had to watch that. It's just weird. It's separated out into two different things. It's not like on the same page on Crunchyroll. So anyways, it's good and entertaining, and I'm enjoying it so far. So that is all I have for you today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment. Let me know your favorite read of this past month. And don't forget to, follow me on Instagram, Jamila B. Readin. Same with my Goodreads. You can follow me on Twitter as well, at Jamilando, where I get spicy about politics mainly. But, anyways, I'll catch y'all in the next video.